The autumn wind is a pirate, blustering in from sea. With a rollicking song he sweeps along, swaggering boisterously. His face is weather-beaten. He wears a hooded sash, with a silver hat about his head, and a bristling black...
Welcome to Press Pass Live, guys. Thank you so much. This is the weekly vodcast. I like saying that word. It makes me feel like I'm smart, even though I know I'm absolutely not. But the weekly vodcast for the grown folks, Madden League, PlayStation 4, gamers, online community. If you don't know about us, you need to come find out about us and join our community that we got going here. Let me welcome in one of my all-time great co-hosts that I have here. Dogs, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here again.
We are actually a man down tonight.
Yeah, we got one of us on call this week for work, so...
I think he's being a little bit dramatic about the whole thing. If you just ask me personally, I think he's milking that for as much as he possibly can get. But let's go ahead and jump right into this. We're a few minutes late. Of course, real life took place, and my wife's truck broke down. I am not a mechanic, but I had to try to figure out what to do and help get her car back on the road. It is not fixed because, unfortunately, I get to change a fuel pump, and I don't know anything about. So that's going to be an adventure, but that pushed us behind a few minutes and then some technical difficulties. So let's hop right in here so we can get Dogs back to his family and me back to mine before my wife absolutely kills me. Let's catch you up with what we've missed so far. I think that we ended in week 8. I'm not 1,000% sure, but let's catch you up with week 9, week 10. We're in the middle of 11. I think, matter of fact, tonight's advance, isn't it?
Yep, tonight we'll advance to week 12. So
there we go. Let's go ahead. Let's catch you up with week 9 and 10, and we'll show you what's happened so far. So far, week 9, the Cardinals win 28-7. That was game of the week. Didn't get played, unfortunately. We lost our Vikings owner, who I've never heard from. I've sent him tons of messages. I don't know what happened with him. He just absolutely disappeared. Next, the Redskins take out the Rams 24-10. The Giants with a 26-8 victory over the Raiders. That's a weird score right there. The Colts with a close victory over the Texans 35-30. The Steelers with a 38-0 victory over the Jaguars. The Bengals with a 24-14 victory over the Dolphins. The Titans 27, Broncos 17. Patriots 33, Bills 18. The Packers 35, the Saints 31. The 49ers 21, the Seahawks 22. The Falcons 20, the Panthers 41. The Jets with a 51-13 victory over the Ravens, and the Bears with a 24-21 victory over the Buccaneers. This week looked like it was pretty home heavy for a while there, and then the last couple of games, the visiting team seemed to take it home. Let's catch you up with week 10 really quick. The Rams fall to the Falcons 35-42. The 49ers with a 31-23 victory over the Cowboys. The Seahawks 31, Eagles 6. The Colts fall to the Titans 28-24. The Texans with a 40-25 victory over the Jaguars. The Steelers 39. The Ravens 25. The Saints with a field goal win over the Bills 13-10. The Redskins winning against the Raiders. There we go, 38-34. The Broncos with a 59-14 drumming of the Chargers. The Lions sneak away with a 13-7 victory over the Bengals. The Chiefs with a 52-7 victory over the Giants. The Cardinals with a 20-7 victory over the Panthers. The Browns with a 20-17 victory over the Bears in a close one. We got to watch that one. The Vikings wrap up week 10 with a 20-7 victory over the Packers. And that brings us to week 11. I don't think we have too many games left. Let's take a quick look. I think we got one game that's being played right now, 2, 3, 4, 5 other games, 6 other games. So a little bit more than we'd like to see, but let's go ahead and rewind, take a look at week 10 since that was our last completed week, and catch up of what kind of stuck out to us. So let's go to you, Dogs. Tell me what stuck out to you in week 10, games that kind of stuck out and why.
I went with a game that stood out: Arizona versus Carolina, 20-7. Arizona getting the victory there. It was a big game for guess who? Tyrann Mathieu, 3 interceptions on the day. Garoppolo, solid day for the Cardinals, 20 of 28, 198 yards, a touchdown to interception. Combined running there, David Johnson had 16 carries, 71 yards, and a touchdown. And Ellington chipped in with 8 carries and 49 yards. It was the Brown show for the receivers. John Brown, 5 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown. And Jaron Brown, 4 catches, 49 yards, no touchdowns for him. On the other side of the ball, of course, with Mathieu having 3 picks, that means Cam Newton had a shaky day, 10-17 for 160 yards, a touchdown, 4 interceptions. Not much of a running game there. Christian Michael, only 6 carries, 17 yards. Calvin Johnson is carrying his big season over to the Panthers. He continues there. Only 2 catches, but for 72 yards. And Luke Kuechly chipped in with 5 tackles on the defensive side. So I guess what I took from that one is Tyrann Mathieu is still Tyrann Mathieu.
Did you get to watch this game at all?
No, I didn't get to watch it, but just looking at it, it was a good game. Good game between two division leaders, both likely to make the playoffs. So
I did get to catch a few minutes of this game, and of course it was the game of the week. Everybody was kind of ready to tune in and watch this one, and of course Tyrann Mathieu, man, just made Cam Newton pay from the very beginning. But it was a much closer game than what the score indicated. The Cardinals kind of put it away really late, and that was a really good game. I went another direction. I actually went with our buddy's game, Winovus, who is our co-host on the show. He's not here tonight. I went with the Browns 20 over the Bears 17. This game was really a typical win game. He plays great defense. He really strategizes and attacks you steady. I think that the problem with the Bears is just going to be a lack of talent right now. He's lacking some serious talent. Of course, Andy Dalton goes 17 of 24, 173, a touchdown. Not super impressive, but very, very efficient. Brock Osweiler, 13 of 27, 176 and a touchdown. Brock has actually struggled this year. Usually the Browns extremely good with their quarterbacks, but Brock has struggled this year and not played extremely well. Not much of a running game for either side. Again, anytime Matt Forte is your main ball carrier, you're going to have problems. I think that the Bears are just going to take a little while to figure out exactly who is their main guy over there. And until he's got time to put his own twist on that team, it's going to be tough. Kevin White, 5 receptions for 46 yards. So the Bears were doing a really good job of shutting them down. The Browns, the Bears jumped up early in this game, took a commanding lead late into the game, and then they just stalled out on offense. The Browns began to make some really good plays, and before you know it, things just kind of slipped away. Mingo, 2 tackles with a sack. The thing that really stuck out to me about this game was that there were no turnovers from either team. These are just 2 teams that played solid defense. The Browns kind of got away from a few little things late and made some things kind of happen as they exposed a few minor things in that Bears secondary, which has been a struggle for them all year. This was a really, really good game. I think the Bears are going to play spoiler throughout the year and really cause some havoc for a whole lot of teams. So there's a look at the game that I wanted to pick.
Yeah, it was a good game. I did get to watch a little bit of that one. I think there towards the end, you mentioned the Bears running game, just kind of getting that figured out. It may have benefited there late in the game to keep the ball away from the Browns as they made their comeback. But Jonathan Bass, again, for the Bears, averaging, I think he had, what was it, like a couple carries for 50-something yards there. So he's a rookie. He's got some good young running backs, just like you said, kind of getting there, putting a twist on things and getting the team like he wants them. But I think he's going to win some games down the stretch.
Yep, absolutely. Well, let's go on to our next section. We're going to talk about the AFC North, and here's the question that I bring to you tonight are the Pittsburgh Steelers, your defending grown folks Madden League champions. Are they the best team in a very loaded AFC North?
I think they are. Like you said, the defending champions there, with a record of 7-2. A big game this week against the Patriots. The Patriots are a tough team to play against, so we'll see. That ought to be a good one there. You got Roethlisberger is 166 of 254 this year for 2,269 yards, 21 touchdowns. He's got a solid run game. Le'Veon Bell with 841 yards on the season. And Drew Archer, 537 yards at a 7.7 yards per carry, both with 7 touchdowns. Solid receivers across the board. Reggie Patrick. You got Antonio Brown. So he's got a solid team. Middle linebacker there, Ryan Shazier, 50 tackles, a sack, forced fumble, 4 interceptions. There you got Martavis Bryant. He's got a solid group of guys there. I look for him to win that division and be a contender for the grown folks championship again.
You know, I'm going to go a different direction. I do really like the Steelers. Do I think they're the best team in the AFC North? I'd have to agree with you. I think they are. Steady, patient, does things with players that most of us couldn't. Look, he's averaging 5.5 yards a carry and 7 touchdowns with Bell, a running back who isn't the speediest guy in the whole wide world. And then on top of that, with that speedy guy, Drew Archer, he's averaging 7.7 yards a carry, 21 touchdowns with Big Ben, 2,200 yards. It's really, really impressive. Ryan Shazier is one of the best linebackers in the game. 4 interceptions, 1 forced fumble, 1 sack, 50 tackles already. But I will say this. That's a pretty tight division. Now, I know that the Steelers have a 2-game lead. If they get this game of the weekend with the Patriots, that's going to be really interesting. If they fall, it's really going to tighten some things up there. If they don't, if they can beat the Patriots, they're going to extend that lead a little bit more, and the later we get here in the season, the harder it's going to get. But I do like the Cincinnati Bengals. It's kind of funny. We lost a Johnny who was the owner, and we have a new Johnny who's the owner of the Bengals. But, man, he has A.J. McCarron as his starting quarterback. And Jeremy Hill. Now, Jeremy isn't blowing anyone away, but he is averaging 5.6 yards a carry. A.J. McCarron's over 2,000 yards, 15 touchdowns. A.J. Green is still getting it done, 38 receptions, 680 yards, 5 touchdowns. Tyler Alford is one of the best tight ends in the game. No one is really super standing out on defense, but they get the job done. And they get what they need to get done. They're all about their offense. They're 8th in yards, 9th in points, 5th in passing. On defense, they're 12th in passing, 12th in total yards, and 14th in points. I like the Bengals, and if the Steelers leave the door open, if they just leave a crack, I would not be completely shocked for the Bengals to walk through that door and try to sneak this division away from them. Again, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm just saying, though, that if I had to pick another team that isn't named Pittsburgh out of the AFC North, I think I got to go with the Bengals. I really like that team.
Yeah, they got a good team. The Browns, that's a tough division. That's a really tough division.
Let me bring in our next question here. Let me see. Somebody just rung in. Oh, no, somebody left. So the next question is, what has happened to the Kansas City Chiefs? Here's a team that won 13 games last season, made a deep run into the playoffs, and here they find themselves in the AFC West, tied for the division lead, only 1 off from the Chargers. And hold on one second. My wife is walking. Can you close that door, please, ma'am? This is all over. So now the whole world is listening to you chew me out. All right. So what has happened to the Kansas City Chiefs, dog? 6-4 this year, struggling 4-1 on the road, but they're only 2-3 at home. They're 3-1 in the division, 5-3 in the conference. They do have a 3-game winning streak here to make things interesting. But what has happened to the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah, the 3-game winning streak, one of those was against me. I really think he struggled early. He lost some games to some good teams. I think he's on the verge of turning it around, though. And the reason I say that is you look at his last 3 games. He has combined score 107-17. That is crazy. One of those was a thumping of myself. So I really think he's turning around. You look last year, he was 12-4. He has a really good team. Geno Smith, he surprises everybody, I think, with some of the stats that he puts up with Geno. He's a good player. I think you look at the record and you say 6-4, man, he's already lost, he's already equaled his loss total from last year. I really wouldn't be surprised if he ended up, in the 10-6 range, something like that. He's on a roll right now. Like I said, anytime you can outscore your opponents by 90 points in 3 combined games, that's some crazy numbers there.
Yeah, he's really turned it on, like you said, here late. Listen to these scores: 30-27 against the Redskins, he loses. Then he wins 48-45, wins 38-32 against the Broncos, loses 24-17 against the Chiefs, loses 35-32 against the Broncos. These are all super close games. Then he has a big victory over the Raiders, 42-10. Then he has another close game, 24-21 against the Bills. And then, like you said, turns it on, 45-0 against you, 52-7 against the Giants, and then 37-10 against the Chargers. He really has turned it on here late. And I would be interested to see what has caused that turnaround. Like, where was the struggle? Geno Smith is playing really solid, 70% completions, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Jamal Charles is averaging 4.1 yards a carry. I think that is where the biggest drop-off has come. That guy was averaging over 6 yards last year, and now he's got 12 touchdowns, which is amazing, but only averaging 4.1 yards a carry, which is a little bit of a drop-off from last year. Of course, Chris Conley is doing his thing, 5 touchdowns with 771 yards, spreading the ball around. No one is really sticking out on defense. Eric Berry does have 5 interceptions, and that is really, really good and one of the tops in the league. But no one is really flying around making a whole bunch of tackles, and I think that's another thing that's hurting his team. But he's played in some really close games. I can't really put my finger on what has caused this turnaround, what has caused the big change in the Chiefs. But he definitely, like you said, has turned some things around here and made things really interesting.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't have to play him again. I'll just say that. That was my worst loss so far. So I'll take him in another division any day of the week.
All right, let's bring us to our next question, and that is, how good has Cam Newton been this season?
Cam Newton. That's I'll just skip all the reasons why I don't like him. But Cam Newton on the season is he's thrown for over 3,000 yards, 24 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. That's he's 70% completion percentage. Right now he's on pace to surpass his yards and touchdowns from a season ago. His quarterback rating is up from a season ago. His completion percentage is up 9% from last year. You look at his first year, he threw 32 interceptions. His second and third year combined, he's only got 30, which is still, it's not great to say 30 picks, but when he's brought that number down a lot. And I think that's the biggest reason he's been able to turn it around with Cam Newton, is cutting down on those turnovers. He's a serious MVP candidate in my eyes. He's got the Panthers in the division lead there, and definitely looking like a playoff run for Carolina, led by Cam Newton.
Yeah, I have to give it to you. Cam was one of those players that the very first year you wondered, can Rio win with him? Can he turn things around with Cam? Though Cam has all of these great attributes that he brings to the field, can he put it all together? Like you said, over 30 interceptions, and then these last 2 years, he's cut it down. Last year, things really clicked for the Panthers late and really made that run and ran away with the NFC South there late in the year. Cam, 70% completion percentage, over 3,000 yards, 3,168 yards, 24 touchdowns to 13 interceptions for a quarterback rating of 123.8. That's pretty impressive. I mean, you can take a team pretty deep in the league whenever you have these kinds of numbers. Here's what's worrying me, though. Only 537 yards rushing from their main running back. The thing that is really encouraging, though, is 5.2 yards per carry and 10 touchdowns. It just feels like whenever you see this team play, and you've seen him last week, Cam went up against a really defensive-oriented team like you're going to face in the playoffs. When you get in the playoffs, it's the cream of the crop. You're facing guys who can do it both on offense and defense. You're going to have to work for 60 minutes to make something happen. And Cam didn't look so high. Less than 200 yards passing, 4 interceptions. Matthew was making his day a living hell. There was no rushing attack. I think he had like 9 yards rushing that game. Those kinds of things make you worry. It makes you pause for a minute. I'll give it to you. Cam Newton is a very good quarterback in this league. Cam Newton, you can win with him. But can you win in the playoffs? Can you go deep in the playoffs with Cam Newton? And after seeing what happened against the Cardinals last week, I have serious doubts that he can make that happen.
Yeah, it's going to get tougher for sure. The Cardinals definitely one of the best teams in the league. Gave him a tough go there. But like you said, you look at just Cam Newton. He's having a heck of a year. You'd like to see maybe some more carries for Christian Michael. Maybe only 103 attempts. He's averaging, like you said, 5.2 yards a carry, 10 touchdowns. That is insane. 10 touchdowns. But you just have to see what happens whenever you get in some of those close games. When you need a running game, if you got somebody there that can shut down the pass, you might need the run game. So that's that'll be interesting to see, how that plays out for him in the playoffs.
Yep. And so this is where we were going to spend 5 good minutes with our friend Rio, but even though we have a caller, I don't know who this is, and we've asked a couple of times, and I'm not sure if it's Rio or not. Rio, if it's you, type in the side. I'm going to bring you in here so we can spend 5 good minutes with you. I'm assuming that might not be you, though. I'm not 1,000% sure. So while we kind of wait for an answer, if he doesn't pop up, let's just talk about those Panthers. I like we were saying a while ago, I think one of the things that is really intriguing about this team and that I can't quite wrap my brain around. Now, I faced him twice a year. I got one more time I got to go up against him, but it's rushing attack. Here, Christian Michael is averaging 5.2 yards a carry. That's awesome. 10 touchdowns already. That's really good for a running back in this league. But yet, only 103 carries. Riddick has got 62 carries for 208, averaging 4.5. He's got 6 touchdowns. That's 16 touchdowns. You throw in Cam's too, that's 19 touchdowns to go up the 24 touchdowns that he's thrown. That's a whole lot of scoring that's going on. But again, if you watch him, Calvin Johnson, 37 receptions for 1,023 yards. Dude's averaging 30 yards a catch. 10 touchdowns on top of that. You throw in Greg Olsen, who's averaging 20 yards a catch, 2 touchdowns, along with 56. Kelvin Benjamin's averaging over 15 yards a catch and 4 touchdowns. But yet, where's the guy that's playing defense for this team? Now, yes, Luke's got 3 sacks. Nothing to really get too excited about. He's got Trey Boston that's got 3 picks. Jason McCourty's got 3 picks. I mean, there's not a whole lot that's really just like jumping out at you, like what's going to bring this team over the top. And that's what I was saying. That was really interesting to see that game of the week last week against the Cardinals. What do you do when you're playing the best of the best and this team laid an egg? This team did not show up. Cam was throwing picks from the get-go. I think first drive of the game, Matthew ducks him into a throw right in the middle of the field, pick. Cardinals go down and score. How are you going to win? How is this team going to respond whenever we move into the playoffs and you begin to play the best of the best?
Yeah, I think not to harp on this too much, but you go back to the running stats. You look at his stats with Michael: 103 attempts, 537 yards. You go look at some of the leading rushers. We were talking about a guy, Le'Veon Bell, earlier, 154 attempts. So that's, DeMarco Murray, 160 attempts. Alfred Morris, 152. So, you're looking at 50 more carries there. If Michael gets 50 more carries, we might not be talking about where's the running game. He might be he might be up there with the league leaders there. So you'd like to see a little bit more of a running game, I think, is the biggest thing. He's got a good defense, got a good quarterback. Calvin Johnson, I'm sure if I was him, I'd send Junior a thank you note every single day for making that trade for Calvin Johnson. It's just he's got a good team. It'll be interesting to see how he stacks up in the playoffs.
Yeah. Here's some stats. 93 overall, first in points at 36.8, third in total yards at 404 yards a game, first in passing yards at 310 per game, 16th in rushing yards at 94.6. Again, especially these last couple of games, he's got away from that rushing attack. Defense, fifth in points, 17.8. Seventh in yards, 288. Ninth in passing yards, 207. Fourth in rushing yards allowed, in 80 a game. Listen to these, though. He beats the Lions 30-16, beats the Falcons 55-20. He beats me, but not 69-0. That ended up having to be a sim win because we had a late disconnect. But then against Kevin, whenever he was the Vikings, 41-27. That's a top team in the Grown Folks Mad League. Gets completely demolished. Beats up on the Dolphins. Beats the Redskins, who's a pretty good team. That's a decent win, 28-23. It's a little tight there. Beats up on the Bills, 43-17. Beats up on the Falcons again, 41-20. And then there it is, the Cardinals loses 20-7. And to be honest, it wasn't even that close. So it seems to be that whenever he faces the elite of the elite, that even though he has a ton of talent and he's doing it, he seems to be doing it against, middle of the pack guys and not guys that are really out there being the movers and the shakers of the league. He's not facing the elite of the elite very good.
Yeah, I think I play him next week, so he'll probably beat me 45-0. But we'll see. Like I said, he's going to be in the playoffs, so he's going to get a chance to show everybody what he's about at that time, I think. But he's going to, like you said, he's going to have to beat the teams like the Cardinals, and you're probably going to have to play teams like the Redskins on that side. The win versus Tampa Bay was a good one, but we'll see what he's got for us.
All right, next we're going to talk about a couple of teams that you feel like can turn it around. So we're here in week 11, and we're going to be into week 12 tonight. So I want you to give me one team who's sub 500. So we're talking St. Louis and under, 4-5 and under. Give me one team that's sub 500 that you feel like the schedule lays out, they got the right attack, they can turn some things around, and they can make the playoffs even though they're a sub 500 team in week 12.
That's a tough one. I think I actually went with the Chargers, who are at 500. But if you're looking,
that's fine. Take the Chargers. I'll give you the Chargers.
All right, we'll go with the Chargers. You're looking at a guy like we said in a couple shows ago that won 5 games all last year. He's sitting at 5-5 right now. He's had two really tough losses in a row to two division teams. The reason I pick him, he's got a tough schedule ahead of him. If he can get anybody to play quarterback, he's looking at, you got Matt Barkley and Colin Kaepernick. He's been rotating them there. If he can get solid quarterback play, I think he can make a push to get in the playoffs. You look at Kenny Stills, Keenan Allen. Get somebody that can throw him the ball and get Melvin Gordon going, and I think he's got a shot. Like I said, he's got a tough schedule. He's still got to play the Chiefs again. He's still got to play the Broncos again. Those are the two teams the last 2 weeks that have really beat up on him a little bit. But I think get your quarterback going, play some good defense, and I really think he can turn it around, get into the playoffs.
I think it's a little funny that Colin Kaepernick is the guy that might turn things around there for him after all of that talk with Wynn. I know that he would find that really funny. No, I'm going to go a different direction. I will say this. I do like the Lions. Surprising at where they're at, but I'm gonna go with the St. Louis Rams. I'll tell you why. He scored 226 points. He's given up 225 points. So he's just a few breaks away from being actually right above 500. He is 3-0 in the division, which is a really good strong thing. I like St. Louis. Of course, he's got a lot of players that I was actually going for in the draft a couple of years ago, and he's really played well with them. He's got to get his quarterback playing better. Ryan Alden is 54% passing. That's not great. 2,200 yards is decent. 16 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. You want to see that to be a little bit bigger spread, but he's got an 85 quarterback rating. Todd Gurley, only 110 carries. Anyone else has barely touched the ball. 4.4 yards a carry, 6 touchdowns. You want to start seeing get that running game going a little bit more. And then, of course, Jamel Elmore, the guy who everybody was excited about a couple of years ago, has really fallen off this year. Only 21 receptions, which is towards the top in his team, but 261 yards, which isn't great. Only a 12.4 yard average, 3 touchdowns. It's actually been Jamal Coleman for him, 26 receptions, 638 yards, 24.5 average with 6 touchdowns. I think that just the Rams offense likes to go for that slot receiver. He seems to get that slot guy open a whole lot. T.J. McDonald's making plays for him, 41 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions. Nigel Ratliff throws in another 3 picks. Aaron Donald's got 4 sacks. So you've got some playmakers on this team. It's a very young team. At 4-5, they've got some tools where they can really start to turn some things around. He's got the passing attack going decent. He's ranked 12th at 236 yards a game. He's got to get that rushing attack going. Only 81 yards a game is 23rd in the league. And on defense, you got to shore some things up. And he's 19th in points allowed, which isn't, terrible. You can win with that, but 22nd in yards, 21st in passing yards, 23rd in rushing yards. I think if he can turn those few small things around, get that rushing game, get that rushing attack really rolling, and get Ty Gurley some carries, he has the opportunity here to turn around. Here's his next couple of games. He's got the Jaguars. That's a winnable game. Against the Cardinals, that's going to be tough. Then he's got a Seahawks team at 3-6 who's coming to town. He can win that if he plays right. Then a good Giants test. That's going to be the game that I think is a very pivotal in their season if they're going to turn some things around. Then he's got the Colts at 4-5, back at the Cardinals at 8-1. Those are going to be 2 tough games. You got the Cardinals here to make a turnaround, and then you finish off with the Titans. So that's a rough stretch to wrap things up, but you got a couple of games here to get the ball rolling, get things going, and I think that that's a team that could really turn some things around.
Yeah, he's give Todd Gurley the ball. I think we were looking at the Panthers earlier with their leading rusher at 103 carries. You look at Todd Gurley there, only 110 carries. So get the rushing game going, and that can start a lot of good things for you, I think.
So here's your next question. Love them or hate them, injuries. Let's spend a couple of minutes talking about injuries. Love them or hate them. Let's kind of take a quick look at how injuries have stacked up so far this point in the season. There's not too many. I think we got 3, 6, 9, 12, 13 injuries. So it's not super terrible at this moment. But we have seen a slight increase with the fatigue and the different injuries. Love them or hate them, injuries in our league.
Well, I don't think you'll ever hear anybody say they love injuries, but from a standpoint of, are they realistic? I think we're good there. I'm seeing less quarterbacks out there. You got a couple here. Parker Austin for the Bills. I know that one's tough. Sturdivant for the Eagles. I know last year I battled with Petty being out, 6 weeks at a time. So injuries are going to happen. They're a part of the game. I know where you're going to go with this question with the running back situation there. And I've had a couple guys be out a couple weeks. So but you got to take into account it is part of the game. Injuries do happen. You just got to hope that they're not the big players that are going to really have a huge impact on your team. But I think we're okay on the injuries and the fatigue setting.
Yeah, I have to admit that I actually love them. I think it forces guys to have depth. I think it forces guys to really build deep teams. I'll say this though, just looking at this and what I experienced, it seems like they come in clumps. First, Steven Sturdivant for the Philadelphia Eagles needs to be wrapped up in a Band-Aid. He has been out ever since he joined this league, and he can't seem to stay healthy. The guy makes plays. He's an amazing playmaker, but he cannot stay on the field. Just going to throw that out there. But Philadelphia's got 2. New England's got 2. Both my starting and backup running back have been out majority of the season. I'll finally get one of them back this week and another back next week. Buffalo, I know, has had several injuries, but they seem to come in clumps, and that part isn't the most enjoyable. You wish that you would just not come in those big, heavy clumps. But I do like them, and I do like how it makes you have some depth in your league. So that is how we kind of feel about injuries. We'd love to get some feedback and feel like with the guys out there in the league, you're dealing with it. How do you feel back? Let's wrap up the show. Give me one team that you feel is hot and one team that you feel is not. Give me your 2 picks as we wrap things up here.
Hey, sorry about that. Go with the Redskins on the team that's hot. You look at their schedule there. They had in weeks 5 and 6 where they lost back-to-back games. Since then, they've reeled off 3 wins in a row. Yeah, 3 wins in a row to get to 8-2, leading that division. Good win versus the Cowboys. Tough divisional game there for them. So I'll go with the Redskins as the team that's hot. And for the team that's not, I'm going to go with the Falcons. The Falcons sitting at 2-8. We'll see how the recent ownership change affects that team, though. You had a guy that just took that team over. Was the Jacksonville owner, so we'll see if he can get in and kind of turn it around. I mean, he's got some good weapons. Still got Matt Ryan there, Julio Jones. I think we've talked about him several times. He's got a good team, but at 2-8 record, just taking that team over, I'm gonna have to go with them as a team that is not.
Here's my who's hot and who's not. I'm going with the New England Patriots. Of course, we had him on the show last week, which was outstanding. It was a great interview. It sucks that Rio wasn't able to join us tonight, but life happens and things happen. And I turned real country there for a second. I don't know what happened, but I'm going with the New England Patriots. They're 8-1, a huge game against the Steelers tonight. They are red hot, and we talked about them to nausea last week, so I'm not going to go back there again. But I do like that. And that dude just went live, which means the Patriots and the Steelers are going to be live here in just a second. I'm going with who's not, and this one pains me because we love the guy. I love Steve. He is on my board, but my Dallas Cowboys are not right now. They are struggling. 2-8. They've dropped a couple of, let's see, if we bring it up, I can say exactly how much. I think they've dropped a couple in a row here. They lost last night to the Redskins. They lost the week before to the 49ers, and before that they did beat the Rams. So they've dropped 2 in a row, but they've dropped 3, 4 of their last 5 and 2 in a row. So the Dallas Cowboys are not America's team right now. They are 2-8. I hope that he's able to pull things together and really begin to get things rolling. He's got a good young team and a good young nucleus, but he plays really good defense. But he is not hot right now. So there are your hot and not. And last but not least, let's talk about the game of the week next week. It's going to be the Vikings versus the Steelers. What do you like about that game?
Vikings Redskins.
Vikings Redskins. That's it.
I was looking through there. It's going to be a good one. I'm going to have to since I just said they were the team that's hot, I'll have to go with the Redskins in that one. You got the new Vikings owner. I think this will be his 3rd game in charge there. So I'm going to have to stick with what I just went with, the Redskins. I think they're going to be too much for the Vikings.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with the Vikings. Though it isn't Kevin's team, I do like the Redskins. They are super solid guy. But you know what? I like Bleeding, and I like what he's going to be doing. He's got a lot of talent. Now, Daddy League is calling for a 26-21 victory by the by the Vikings. I apologize. But I really think that the Vikings are going to make some noise. I think Bleeding's it's going to be a couple of weeks now with his new team. He's loaded with talent. I really, really like the Vikings to come out with that one and really take hold of that NFC North that they're in and take a lead. So there it is. Let's take a quick look and see if it's going. But this is possibly our game of the week this week, the New England Patriots at the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this is going to be one hell of a game. And it is. It is rocking and rolling. It is 0-0, 7:58. So this game is just getting going. This should be the game to watch. If you're on tonight and you're watching, now I got a McDonald's commercial, but if you're watching, you need to check out that game. That is going to be great. There's a look at weeks 9, 10, 11. We're going to be in week 12 tonight. Dog, thank you so much for joining me tonight and dealing with my crazy schedule. Excuse me, as I had to adjust some things. Another great show is in the books, and we will be back next week. Win will be here. I'm sure he's going to have tons to say. He's probably going to talk our heads off since he wasn't on the show this week. But it's going to be another great week. Thank you so much for being here and joining us tonight. Until next week, we will see you on the other side.